Oh, okay. Finally, we made it for the self-care talk. It's funny, in last year, I got guided to do a series of conversations with people I love about different themes for the month, for each month of 2024. And we're a little bit behind schedule because, as universe would have it, everything has been exactly on point and on target. And so when I was thinking about this new year and, what I could do to be of service, I realized that there's so many beautiful lights in this world, and I wanted to share some of these lights with other people. So I wanted to share these conversations that I have with the world. And I asked Spirit, what could we talk about? And February came in as self-care, and the alchemist for the conversation was my dear friend Mandy Marshall, who's here with us today. And I immediately knew that she was the right person because she grounds me. The minute I speak to her, I calm down. I feel softer. I feel quieter. I went through a School of Wisdom program, and Mandy was one of my sisters in the collective. And to me, she just reminded me of that energy of air that lets the breeze flow through. She's very poetic, and she's a life coach, and she looks at the world in a different way than so many of us. And she has this poetic beauty about the way that she sees the world. And so I've seen her take care of herself and to be very wonderful and beautiful about setting clear boundaries, even with me, with people she loves, with people in the sisterhood, with her teacher. And I loved watching that because it was this blossoming of boundaries and self-care, which I'm still working on. And I know we all are. I know, Mandy probably is too. But for me, it was a beautiful message when her name came up as self-care, because I see her take care of herself. And I see her do it in loving ways where she says, no, I can't do that right now. She doesn't hurt my feelings either, but I'm afraid to say that to someone else. And it's just this beautiful mirroring and showing me the way of how to say no with love, and how to be gentle, and how to kind of push back on, well, what does that mean? And how am I going to be of service? And do you really want me? And these questions that can feel prickly when no one ever asks or pushes back, to me are such a gift, because she's showing me how to have boundaries with love, to how to take care of herself before she can take care of other people or say yes to their needs or their requests. And so I love that she is here with us today. And I've spoken to Mandy so many times about life, but since you're here and you're new, I thought we'd start off with, first of all, welcoming Mandy. And then, Mandy, if you want to just tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, because your story to me is amazing, because every story is amazing, of how you became the woman you are today. But I feel like it's inspiring for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Paige. I would say my journey is really only now beginning once again. I walked this path of spirituality and seeking and guidance. And as you mentioned, I met you in the School of Wisdom. And I would say that path was such an exciting path for me, because it was a journey I'd never wandered down before. And I resisted it. I pushed against it. I didn't understand it, but I was allowed to do that. The sisters gave me the space to do that. Shakti honored that. And in that, I slowly got comfortable in my skin, in self-care, in who I am, and how to show up in the world. And along the way, it's about 3 years ago now, I was facing a spinal fusion, and I was sitting with the neurosurgeon, and he was telling me all about my spine and how he was going to slice me and dice me. And And I had this moment of my spine is not aligned because my life is not aligned.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I dropped into a deep clarity of I needed to nourish myself. I needed to care for myself because I was too busy trying to be the nice spiritual person, or the spiritual person that wasn't too woo-woo, or wasn't, and I wasn't making it my own. And therefore I was completely out of alignment. And when I found that place and space, I made some really big decisions in my life to care for myself spiritually. One of them, the first one, was I decided to stop drinking. And that in itself was a challenge, in that we live in a world where alcohol is so prevalent. We meet for drinks, we go out, people don't know how to socialize with you. You know, even if you go to a barbecue and somebody will say, what would you like to drink? And I said, do you have any soda or something non-alcoholic? They look at you completely blank. And then they don't know what to offer you because they don't have the narrative to continue the conversation. And that was so interesting for me, because I suddenly realized, by wanting to honor myself and my well-being, by taking this first step, made other people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only was I learning to nourish myself and care for myself, I was also having to hold space for people around me, that my change and my growth, as impactful as it was going to be, was not something they needed to be afraid of. You know, I hadn't crossed a line and sort of changed and gone into the other world. Now they weren't sure how to communicate with me. So that's where it all started. Just making one simple decision to walk down a road that honored me.
I love that message of your life wasn't in alignment because you weren't in alignment. And I think that all of us can mirror that in some ways, because our life is a reflection of who we are and where we are and our thoughts and our feelings. I know that you spent a long time studying, and you're a life coach. So can you talk a little bit about your journey as a life coach? You're also an amazing designer and decorator, because you see the world in a different way. And so I think that you kind of see life from a design perspective. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I hadn't realized I saw the world in color and sound. Color to me has a feeling, it has an emotion, and I never knew that. And when I started to understand that, it opened up even more creativity within me. So my conversations are colorful because I'm honest, and that makes people uncomfortable. But as a life coach, even with my conversations being colorful and encouraging and creative, that's what I'm doing when I'm working with somebody. I just see them as something that, it's like being given a blank canvas and they don't know they can color themselves in. And that's what I do. I just help them pick out the colors to enhance their life. Coaching has been an interesting journey for me, because it was when I turned 50, 10 years ago, I turned 50, and I decided to go and walk the Camino, Santiago El Camino. And I decided to take 50 days to celebrate 50 years. And it was while I was out meandering that path that I decided to become a coach, because it just brought me such joy. And then in my own journey in studying further, and then being exposed to the School of Wisdom and a spiritual side that I had not seen before, it helped me take my language, my true language. So I speak color, I speak sound. It helped me speak my true language to people who could hear that. And so So I really do coaching by referral, because not everyone's a fit for me. And I'm not a fit for everybody because not everyone speaks color.
And I love that even that statement right there is an example of self-care, is that you know your authenticity and you're always honoring that. And self-care is so much, I think, about honoring your integrity and your authenticity. And so many of us, including myself, fall short of that because we want to continually please. And my guides have definitely shown me that, you know, perpetual pleasing is a form of trauma. And so that is perfect that you are in a high enough awareness to know who you are and to know that you are going to attract the right people. If anybody is interested in working with you, please contact me. I will refer you to Mandy, and then you guys can reach out and speak to each other one-on-one. I know that for me, having Mandy in my heart space, because she's one of like these people that I consider my sisters, like in my heart. When I speak to you, Mandy, like you bring things, you look at things and you think about them and you have this poetic nature that is so different than most people. So I love that you say that you speak in sound and color and song, because really you do. And I've seen it through you, and it resonates. It resonates with me because you kind of always ground me and you're always asking questions. It's like this reaching for you. And I love how you're always understanding. So a lot of people listen, but one thing I see about Mandy is that you listen to really listen. Like you take the time and you digest what they say and you pause before you speak, which is someone like me who's more fire, right? I'm there, I'm talking, I'm going. And you're more soft, you're more gentle, you think and you digest, and then you let it almost like, I get the energy of air for you. It's almost like it just flows out in this beautiful way. Now, so many of us in this life are trying to use our heart as a compass. And that for me has kind of been something that I keep saying is my inner mantra. Like, is this in alignment for me? Is my heart at true north if I go in that direction? And I see you do that so many times. You told me recently you're going to India to study yoga. Like, even I didn't know about your 50 days. That's amazing. It's little things that you do like that is using your heart as a compass. So how do you do that? How do you follow those urgings and formulate them and take action steps to create them? Because a lot of us have these ideas, but you do them.
I think that's a challenge we tend to honor ourselves in self-care, but we need to just drop that a layer deeper and honor the decisions we make. We need to take responsibility for the choices we make. So we need to be sure of the choices we make. And that's been part of my biggest learning. I've made a lot of choices based on what I think the outcome is going to be. So I've made a decision hoping that will be the outcome. But then the outcome isn't what Spirit has in mind for me. It's not right for me, but I focus on that. And when I learn to sort of drop a layer deeper, as you say, your heart is a compass. When you listen to your heart, when you go into that stillness in your heart and that wise woman within, it's listening to her and really being clear on some of the decisions I've made. So I've made a lot of decisions, especially in the beginning, where I felt there's so much new modalities of study within our interests. And so I found myself picking up shiny new objects along the way. And, I was doing this and I was doing that. And it was in that moment when I realized my life was not in alignment because my spine was not in alignment, that I decided to do yoga. Now, I'm not a yoga girl. I kept saying, oh, I won't do yoga. I prefer Pilates, and there's nobody here that teaches Pilates. Oh, how convenient. So I don't need to do yoga either. And so when I saw how I was using that as an excuse, and I was using and ignoring the choice and decisions and responsibility I needed to take for self-care, I decided to do yoga. And so I found a wonderful teacher, and I do yin yoga. It's a slower modality, slower limb of the yoga, and I enjoy it. And then restorative yoga. So the first thing I did was kind of put my life in alignment, not expecting to fall head over heels in love with yin yoga. It just changed me completely. It slowed me down. I had to do meditation. I'm notoriously known for being impatient in meditation. I could never sit long enough. Now I find myself just loving it, loving what I've been taught to do, and loving, honoring how special it is, you know, and so, and I believe that's come about because life has put me on the path to healing and to growing and to slowing down even more, and then slowing down even more. And that's what self-care looks like. So
what does digging deeper mean? You've said that twice, and for me, or for anyone watching this, self-care is one layer. But is it slowing down? Is digging deeper slowing down?
Slowing down to me is being. We often hear of, we're so busy doing, but we're not being. And so there were days when I would just sit quietly, and my husband would say, what are you doing? And I'd say, I'm enjoying the moment. No, really, what are you doing? That is exactly what I'm doing. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm just being present, you know? So there's this constant, no, but, and it's very uncomfortable. There were days when my skin just didn't fit. To sit in that place of meditative stillness and just to be present to the moment.
Yeah.
It itches, it scratches, it's not cashmere. And then one day you realize it fits, and 20 minutes is gone, or half an hour is gone. And you start seeking out those moments where I started getting up earlier in the morning to just sit outside and be present to the sunrise, or be present to the dawn. And that to me is dropping it down into, there's nothing to do and nowhere to go. Because we live in a world of, you have so much to do and you need to go and do it all at once. And it's just taking myself right back to the opposite end of that and going, no, there's nothing to do and nowhere to go but be in this moment. And so that created a huge shift in me. It made me realize that well-being is a word we just banter about. It's almost, you know, mental health and well-being, and we really need to respect those words and hold them with reverence and gentleness, so that people, first of all, don't feel it's a fashion statement, or a get out of anything card. It's a true state of human being that we need to honor. So in this doing yoga and then deciding not to drink, and how that changed a lot of things, at how I felt, how I looked at the world, how people looked at me. I lost a few friends. They just didn't know how to socialize with me anymore. And then I realized the next step is just well-being within food, looking at food from a holistic point of view, from an organic point of view, the consumption of food, not even what we eat, but how much we eat, you know. And that's once again, doing food, eating out, as opposed to being with them.
Present.
Yeah. And so when I fell into that space, as I said, that's what I mean by dropping into a deeper space. You almost honor the meal before you, because you see it for the nourishment it's going to bring you, not a means to an end or a habitual ritual that you do 3, 4, 5,
Or
6.
a distraction. Yeah. So for those of us that are kind of more in this hamster wheel of going, and I know that I say that often, like I don't have enough time, and then I'm going, no, I'm choosing how to spend my time. But it's a very hard wheel to get off of. And I know that you've been on the wheel because you're a businesswoman, you've been working professionally your whole life, you have a huge, beautiful, wonderful corporate career and resume. So for those of us that are still on that wheel, that are still figuring out how to drop down, what advice do you have in terms of starting? Where can we begin?
With the conversation you have with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you communicate with yourself. You know, you're never going to turn to a friend and say, I don't have enough time to see you, I'm too busy. But that's how you talk to yourself. You know, you'll make up all sorts of excuses not to see her, but you would never say to her, oh, listen, I got too much to do. I'm more important things to do, so I can't see you. But you say that to yourself. So self-care is the conversation you have with the woman you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's having those I had to have really hard conversations with myself, uncomfortable conversations. You know, are you doing that because you want to be liked? Are you doing that because you think you will gain something? Are you doing that because subconsciously it's manipulative? Because it suits your need or want. It suits your want, might not suit your need.
Kind of like how you were saying you weren't doing yoga because it wasn't Pilates.
Exactly. So there was a conversation with myself that was really convenient to say, oh, I'm just not an exercising kind of girl.
Right. I'm not a yoga girl. You tell yourself when yoga's the thing that you need.
Yeah. And yoga, it gave me a whole new dimension spiritually. The fact that it's doing my body good is a byproduct of what it's really given me.
Right.
And that's the same with conversations. A lot of our conversations are very fickle.
Yeah.
And so it's when we get clear on what I, you know, sometimes people ask you a question. And sometimes you have to wonder what their intention is with the answer you're going to give them. Because they're not really looking for something out of deep concern. They're already looking, well, if you say that, it means this, and then it means that. So it's that manipulation, and we manipulate ourselves into believing what we don't need and don't want. So the first person to be truthful to is ourselves.
Yes, and that's the hardest, isn't it?
And that's why I love what you say, your heart is a compass, because your heart is your truth. And your heart knows that. So when you're out of alignment, you just don't sit comfortably in that. Your compass is all over the place because your heart's going, yeah, your way of, you know, when are you gonna really listen to yourself? When are you gonna face true north? Yeah.
Right. So the world right now is kind of in a chaotic place, and we're all kind of struggling with who we are and how are we creating the world and how are we anchoring in the love and how are we using our heart as a compass. If you could envision a world that was filled with love and light and beauty, what would it be like?
The world is so chaotic at the moment. I think for me, I would like to see a world where people can be themselves vulnerably without abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, without the aggression. We live in such an aggressive world.
Mm.
I'd like to live in a world that wasn't so aggressive.
How can we, as a sisterhood, as a collective, how do you think we can put self-care in to our lives to create, because in a lot of ways we're abusing ourselves is kind of what I'm hearing from you. Like abuse it isn't always from the other hand. It's us saying we don't have the time. It's that we don't have the energy, that we don't want to put in the time to make the food that's good for us, and all of those little things, those conversations. So what can we do? Small action steps.
We have to live in our own truth as opposed to living in the world's truth. And when we live in the world's truth, there's too many opinions and too many sides and too many facets to the world that we can't take them all on board, and we can't change all of them, but we can change ourselves. And by changing ourselves, it's just reaching out and taking another sister's hand. And I think it's taking one hand at a time. That becomes a chain of love. You know, if we can't be truthful amongst ourselves as sisters, as women, we can't be truthful in the bigger sphere and hemisphere of that world. So we're almost the first domino that needs to fall.
Right.
And it's a very gentle nudge. But when we fall, and if we fall correctly, or if we lean into that next domino, it's like a dominoes game. It can be beautiful. It just goes on and on and on. I don't know if you've ever seen them. It's quite fascinating for me. And that's how I envision sisters around the world. Each of us is a domino. So whether we fall to the left or to the right or back or forward, there's another sister there waiting for us to take their hand.
Beautiful. And I see it. And when that image is perfect, because I've seen those beautiful, like, they're almost art pieces. And as the dominoes fall, it's this beautiful masterpiece. And I think that's kind of what life is, you know? And I love our relationship too, because I know that for a long time on my spiritual journey, I felt so alone. And now being able to have someone that I can reach out to. And also I love, and I'm so honored and humbled and blessed that I have you in my life, because when I'm having a hard time, sometimes you just send me a short message like, I'm sending you love. And it's those little things that matter in relationships and friendships, to know that we're not alone. So that leaning forward of the domino can be something as simple as thinking of you. And it matters to us because we are all connected, and we're all having bad days and good days, and trying to sit in our skin and trying to fall in the right direction and fall towards the light. And some days are harder than others. And
we can't change that for our sisters. You know, if you're going to have a hard day, all I can do is show you my support and my love and show you my heart.
yes, exactly.
I can't make your day better. I can't change the difficulty you're going through. We each have to walk that journey or experience whatever it is we're dealing with. But the fact that you know you're not alone, I think is what we need to give the world.
Yes, absolutely. So we're coming in on the last 10 minutes of our interview. And, you know, I know that when we first started, we were kind of wondering, were we going to have enough to talk about? What were we going to say? And I just love how beautiful. And I knew this conversation would be, because every time I talk to you, the conversation is always beautiful. And so I'm so happy that now it can be recorded and it can be shared for other people that are on their journey or figuring things out. And it's scary to step out, like you stepping out with your friends. You lose some friends sometimes. Like spiritual journey is like that. When you're following your heart as true north, it doesn't always match up with the people that you want it to.
And sometimes it can feel even lonelier than it ever did before.
Yes.
And it's being in that gap between, you know, there's a gap between the age of 59 and 60. But in that gap is the biggest transformation I've ever experienced. It's the same as the gap between 49 and 50. We know we're going into a whole new stage and age of our life, but that gap is where the transformation takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to step into it. And don't be afraid to step into nothingness. I always have to, I'm very impatient. I've learned to slow down. That's one of my biggest challenges. So I'm very impatient. And then sometimes I'm like, come on, universe, you know, how long is this going to take? And then I realize, well, there's 10 dominoes behind me that need to fall or lean towards me before I can move. And I don't know what they're dealing with before they create that extension of love or reaching out of the hand. So I've got to wait. And sometimes that waiting, it's that gap. It's allowing me to transform and to slow down and to be patient and to be ready.
So for you, you almost set the intention and then you just wait for all of the other pieces to line up for you.
Yes,
versus someone like me wants to make an action plan and have the steps and get it done.
I don't do any more action plans. I've learned, I trust the universe has said, wait for me and I will show you. And that's quite an uncomfortable place to wait in sometimes.
Yeah. But
in that place of waiting, I got into yoga, I got into meditation, I watched the dawn each morning. You know, there's something there that it just gives me a bit more growth and preparedness.
And you mirror this kind of slowing down, like watching the dawn. It's on my list of things to do.
If you haven't done it yet, take it off the list and find something new to do. The other thing is that in this time that I have, I've also learned to reconnect with women who are important to me. It's not always reciprocated. I think that's been one of the toughest lessons, because in this time of growth and self-care, we sometimes stretch a hand out to somebody and they don't return theirs.
Yeah.
So sometimes in that uncomfortableness of feeling rejected is a whole different lesson. And that, I think, has given me a lot of strength in the past year or so, because I've stretched my hand out to a number of sisters and it hasn't been reciprocated. And I've learned that my heart needs to stretch out. You know, maybe I
think sometimes too, people just aren't able to receive it at that time. And sometimes it's like you keep talking about the gap, and the image that I'm getting is that sometimes you send a hand or a message out, and it's not always reciprocated because they're not ready or able to receive at that time. And our instinct is to feel sad or feel like it's something about us, versus it's really just about holding space for that person until they're ready to reach back out. And that's something that I struggle with, because, you know, I kind of I want to go. I want that.
And that's where self-care is slowing down, because sometimes we're so busy stretching forward that maybe we need to turn around and wait for our dominoes to come from behind.
Oh, beautiful image, Mandy. Yes.
So we're being a bit hasty. And that has helped me lessen the pain of believing people don't want to be my friends. It's a case of just wait and be present to who's reaching out their hand to you.
Yes, so true. So beautiful. I've loved having you and talking to you. And I think people are going to love listening to this conversation because I feel like the conversation in itself was healing. Like from the start of the meeting, I was kind of trying to get things done. And now I feel softer. I feel more gentle. And that's really the energy that you bring into the space. So I just want to thank you for being you and for, I know this was a little bit out of your comfort zone because you're like, wait, you want me with people I don't know? And I was like, yes, I do. Yes, I want that. So thank you for trusting me and taking a leap of faith to come into this little whatever this is, a Zoom interview, a podcast, a video. I don't know what this is. I just feel like I love my conversations with you, and I feel like the world will benefit from it from your wisdom. I know that if anybody is watching this and they're interested, please reach out to me and I will refer you to Mandy, and you can talk to her and have a consultation about life coaching. Are there any other products that you want to talk about, or things that you do in terms of connecting?
If you happen to be in India while you're listening to this, definitely reach out because then I will meet with you. So
Yeah, and I love how you travel. Like there's definitely that's something else that I find that's really beautiful about you is that you really connect in with the earth and you figure out where you need to go, and you travel there sometimes without even understanding why. And that's that heart is a compass for you where you feel a calling to a certain place. And sometimes if you're like, I know I need to travel, Paige, but I don't know where. And then you just kind of wait, and then I find out, oh, it's India, or it's here it
yes,
is.
India has been the biggest surprise that has arrived. Yes, it
Well, then
has.
maybe we'll have to do an interview when you come back from India.
I will let you know. Paige, thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you. And many blessings to everyone. I hope you all have a blessed day. Bye bye.
Bye.